Hi guys, welcome to my channel. So the purpose of my channel always has been to bring forward certain aspects, whether they are academic or non-academic, for students of 11th and 12th to help with their dilemmas, to help with their scores, and sometimes to help them make decisions about career choices and college choices. So I've always been working towards this, and today I'm bringing forward one of my ex-students, a student who was with me from 2004 to 2006, Tapsi Chhabra. She made very unique career choices. She took up non-med, appeared for AIIIE. JEE used to be AIIIE in those years. And she entered an engineering college. She completed her degree and got placed, very happily placed. And then all of a sudden, she decided, no, this is not what I want to do, and changed her career path. I believe such decisions really need a lot of courage, but she did it. And after so many years today, she is happily placed, successful in her career. So I just wanted her to share her journey with all of you. Maybe it gives you some idea, some perspective into your choices and your life. So I introduce Tapsi Chhabra. Tapsi, welcome to my channel. So I would love
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I would love you to tell us about yourself.
So right now I am a business communication and soft skills trainer, and I have clients from companies in different industries. So for example, I've taught people in law firms, in IT companies, in international organizations like the UNDP, and consulting firms like Deloitte. So we run business communication skills programs where we train people in how to communicate effectively in the workplace.
Okay, so welcome once again. So Tapsi, you started your journey with choosing after 10th standard non-medical. That is physics, chemistry, and maths. Like, was it a very informed choice, or you simply took up one out of the two which was available? Was there a lot of discussion before you made this choice? So just tell us something about it.
I think it was a pure lack of awareness, self-awareness, and the awareness of the different career choices available in the world. I did not have access to all the possibilities in the world about what I wanted to do. And I did not know for sure at 16 what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I was a straight A student, and the norm was that intelligent, so-called intelligent or straight A students just take science. And back then, there was some sort of bias towards humanities and commerce, where it was considered that only people who can't score well in science do that. So it was like, it wasn't a chosen career choice, it was the career choice for people who couldn't do science. So I think that was the mindset back then, because of which I chose science.
So
more of an arrogant decision, if you will.
Yeah, because I think back then, and to some extent, even now, some students have this mindset that the science students are level up than the, although this is not true.
It's not.
It is not at all. It depends upon what you want to do further. You need to be choosing a career based on that. Okay.
Yes.
So were you happy doing your 11th, 12th sciences once you started with 11th and 12th sciences? How easy was this 2 years journey for you?
It was extremely hard. I don't think anything could have prepared me for the, first of all, the volume of very technically specific information that was coming my way. I don't think we prepare people enough. And the other thing was, because this was not an authentic choice for me, because it wasn't aligned with who I am and my skill set, it was extremely difficult for me to get through those years. I think those were the most difficult years of my life, where I had to confront failure in a way that I had never done before. So there were times, especially with physics, I think I really struggled. Chemistry and English were the things that, thanks to you, and just because I was interested in English, that took me through those engineering entrance tests and probably got me a seat in a good engineering college. But I think because there was this intermittent, or let's say very frequent, sense of failure throughout those 2 years, it was extremely hard overall.
Yeah, what I remember from interactions with you, we used to have a lot of discussions, and sort of, counseling sessions at that time to keep you pepped up and motivated.
Yes.
So what I understood was you were more of a, simple at heart, creative, a multi-skilled child who did not want to be boxed up and was not just into this mathematical skills and, numerical. This was not exactly your cup of tea. And second thing, what I had observed about you that time, if you love a subject, only then you can do it.
Yes.
We could not force anything into you if you're not enjoying the learning process. That is
I was just coming to that. Exactly. I think you've really identified it correctly. Yes.
So I think chemistry was one such subject which I observed over as time passed, you started getting interested and your score started improving. But I think those 2 years were not happy years for you. They were struggling years for you.
I think if you put your mind to something, I think we're all capable of getting to a certain level in any subject. But it's very different from being naturally aligned to something.
Yeah.
Yes. And of course, there are different types of people with different kinds of abilities. For example, some people are really mathematically aligned. Numbers relax them. And for people like me, numbers stressed me out. Still do sometimes. So it's very different how each brain works. And I think mine, like you rightly said, is still more creative. But those 2 years really never gave us much of a chance to explore creativity, which at 16 is something that I think I should have been looking for opportunities to do.
Kind of system we have, at that stage, we don't have a structure where children can really identify and they can be led into those directions. Every one of them has to pass through these 2 years. And I don't think we actually, guide them and groom them and give them those opportunities and options, not even opportunities, even options. What are things can they explore?
Yes.
And as parents and teachers, I don't know, I think we have less of that support system.
Yes.
That you want to take a new choice, go ahead. Very few people take chances, allow their children to take those chances.
Yes, and there are very valid reasons for why that was the case, at least in 2006, because I think parents and teachers tend to come from a good place, from a place where they care about us. And back then, an artist or a musician did not have the kind of exposure or opportunities to earn as much as a scientist or an engineer. With the advent of the internet, with the coming of Instagram and YouTube and the reach climbing to millions, anyone with any skill set stands a chance to have a good life today and be recognized for what they do. Back then, I'm not sure if that was an option. And the second thing is, I don't think anyone even explored. So, for example, one of the things that could have really helped, and I don't think we still do that here in India. I know some schools in Delhi do that, but I'm not sure if it's a countrywide phenomenon. But students in class 10 or 11 are encouraged to shadow people from different occupations, which I think is brilliant. Because it helps them see what a day in their life looks like. And that is so much closer to the ground than the ideas in their head about what it looks like. Because for me, engineering sounded really fancy. It sounded really intelligent. And an engineer, that job sounded really posh and intellectual. But when I actually went to get trained in the training semester, in the last semester of my engineering, I understood what my days are going to look like if I continue. And that was the real homecoming for me, where I realized that, this is not something I want to do for the rest of my life. I cannot find bugs in other people's programs. I cannot sit behind a screen and not interact with people on a daily basis. Yeah, so if we can bring in that kind of a system, it will change the game.
Yes, and that has to start somewhere, at the, say, CBSE level. The education system has to bring in something like maybe 1 month after 10th, 1 month internship, compulsory internship under any kind of, service heads or anybody, any profession that the child wishes to take up. So just having a mock setup for a month or just going and observing and you were right, shadowing a person to actually know what it calls for. And do they have a skill set? Tapsi, I'll share with you recently. I had an argument with somebody. Someone was, labeling a person who was not very strong in maths, could not do that fractions very quickly and decimals very quickly, as that this one is genius, but this one is not. So I was arguing simply somebody who is good in maths is not essentially a genius. Person who is good literature wise or maybe some other skill set is a genius in their own field.
Yeah.
The normal thought process is somebody who can do numbers quickly is an intelligent person. Others are not.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I think that's so unfair because that saying that if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, they're only going to come out looking like idiots,
Yeah, exactly. I know of a person, a doctor right now pursuing MD, but when he goes to the grocer, he doesn't like even calculating money, how much given and how much to be taken back. Finds.
Yes.
Yeah. Because doesn't like to work with numbers. That's perfectly fine. A person is brilliant in his profession. But our mindset is stuck up as labeling people. So and so is intelligent, so and so is not. And we actually vocalize all this and without even realizing what effect it has on a child who's just come out of 10th standard or just come out of 11. And I've seen students, even from our school, my own students, going into engineering, even doing a degree from IIT, passing out, and then getting into comedy.
Absolutely.
And doing a wonderful job there.
Yes.
Perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I think after 10th, there should be some such system where children are allowed to identify a little more about what to choose.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Maybe at class 9, maybe give them a couple of years to explore. Maybe that's good. Maybe after class 10,
but it could be as simple as keeping 1 month, internship after 9th standard, 1 month internship after 10th standard, the way you have after your engineering course. I think you have some few months of internship during engineering as an essential component before you get your degree. Yeah. So we could keep something like, instead of simply giving that writing into copies and doing a copied homework from here and there, instead of doing all that, why not have something which children enjoy, learn, evolve, and actually can relate to what they need to do. Something like summer workshops or things.
Yeah, and I'd just like to quickly comment on what you said about labeling people. I think I'm so glad to hear this from you, but I don't think a lot of people realize the impact of these labels. I think we very unintentionally limit the world of students by just putting them into very narrow categories based on very biased choices. And I think there is hardly any respect for individuality and individual preferences or abilities or talents or even just interests. And I think that is something I don't want that to get lost here because that's such an important point. I think language is what shapes the world. And I think my whole decision was around the language used for humanities and around the language used for sciences. And I think I would have done so well in humanities. But the kind of things we say about people who do that is very, I don't know, it's very influential, the language we use around people, around kids that age. 13 to 15 years old, because that's the age where you want to be accepted. You want to feel like you're part of the tribe or the cool tribe, or at least you want to be respected for who you are. Yes. So I just want to say here that I think if we're just careful about that, not doing that, a lot of children can make more authentic choices. And also the kind of futures we show them. I just remembered that one of the things I was always told that if you take a science stream, you'll have unlimited options. But if you take commerce or humanities, you can only do this much, So if you show them that the world is open to you only if you take non-medical or medical, decisions are going to be very different from whether you just do it out of interest or not. I mean, look at Amal Clooney. She's a human rights lawyer. She's not a scientist. But what she's doing for the world is very different from what a non-medical student would do after years and years of studying.
And I think opportunities are there, but they are there from every field.
Yeah, now, yes.
Yeah, they were always there, but I don't think we were ever so prepared to pick up because, Tapsi, I think there was always the first person who took a chance and then others started following.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, when you tread that path, which is new, it is difficult for you, but then because it's new, it's a different path. But over the years, when that path also becomes crowded, then also things are not easy.
That's true. Yes.
Then also the competition builds up. So life is never easy this way or that way. So what I believe we should simply make children learn to be authentic first, to be able to identify their own self, to be able to stand for their own self, not simply for every little going under peer pressure and identifying your own self or grading your own self based on what your friends think of you. So that is one strong aspect of personality that we need to develop in our children.
And that's a much bigger conversation. It's not based on the individual. I think it's conditioning that has run through ages. So it needs to change in the mind of their peers. It's only natural to want to be accepted in a peer group, because historically that comes with safety, and that comes with being accepted was literally how you would stay alive, right? So it's okay to do that, but we need to change the conversation in society so that nobody feels pressured to lie to themselves to be accepted outside.
And somewhere the role of parents and teachers, it's
very much so.
Yeah, the first teacher are parents, yes, and then teachers. So if somewhere that school, the home, all this works in sync, and we just keep our children safely confident.
Yes, and we celebrate their individuality. We don't compare children in the same house. We don't say, look at your brother.
Exactly. And it's so difficult to do.
Yeah.
As a parent, to tell your child that you find your own passion, you to start identifying what you feel good about. There is no comparison. You don't have to follow somebody else's journey, because we all are here for a different purpose. First, absolutely, parents should understand, and these are not that easy things. It's a
much bigger conversation. Yeah.
It's not a black or white gray zone that can be spoken. Is not that easily can be tried also. The structure needs to change at many levels. Okay, so Tapsi, share with us, how did you make this decision, and what are the areas where you felt people resisted your decision, or it was a challenge to go through this, like to accept that you, after engineering and after getting placed, I think you got placed after you completed your degree.
I had 3 placements, yes.
And in spite of that, you quit that area and altogether you got into something different and new. So what do you think?
So I think one of the things that I remember was feeling really tired of feeling like a failure throughout my engineering program, even though I had above average scores and a healthy social life. And, overall, if you look at it on paper, it was not a bad tenure at all in my engineering, but I just internally felt like I wasn't doing what I wanted to do, or it just felt like failure a lot of the time. That was the starting point. I was also fortunate to attend a self-development.
I'm interrupting you, Tapsi. Why did it feel like a failure? What do you think were the aspects, like academic or academic?
Mostly academic, because there were a lot of subjects that I tried really hard at, but I could only get average score. There were a few subjects that I did really well on. Coding and programming was particularly difficult for me to wrap my head around. I worked hard. I did it. I learned different languages, but I could see a lot of people around me being naturals at it, really enjoying the process, whereas it was a constant struggle for me. And even after the struggle, the results weren't proportionate to the amount of effort I had. And also just knowing that you don't belong in we always know that. We always know when we don't belong, and it's just not possible to articulate at that age. But now I know that I really felt out of place for the most part. Then I was in a self-development or personal discovery program called the Landmark Forum. And I think one of the things they do very well for you is make you absolutely honest with yourself. So I think that gave me the courage to really admit that science is not for me, and that's okay. And once that realization came, I think a lot of elements came together. I'm going to dare to say, from the universe, where I went to do my internship, I realized that this was just not the life for me. I Googled what I could do with my other talents. So English has been one of my main interests for as long as I can remember, in all languages, but English in particular. And I was very fortunate to find a Cambridge University certification, which was low effort, low cost to change a career. I had the courage to then do it and change my career. To answer your question about what people resisted, there was huge resistance from everyone in my family and my friend circle, where they assumed that teaching English is a hobby and I could do it after I retire, or I could do it on the side on the weekends.
Okay.
And I had my parents are very open-minded and they've always supported me. But for a while, to see their engineer daughter leave a career that's very well defined in the next 5 years, or it has a much better looking definition or much clearer path of growth, to go into a teaching profession, which she has no idea about. I didn't have a bachelor's in English. I didn't have master's. So they probably felt that, I wasn't prepared. and I had a placement in hand. So they encouraged me to just try it out for 6 months. And if it doesn't work out, then change my career. But because I had a lot of clarity by then, I had to stand up to all the opinions and all the resistance that came from family and even friends and even, people, my mentors who really wanted the best for me, who couldn't understand why I was doing that. But once you're clear, I think the courage comes with it. Clarity brought courage for me. And then, I'm glad I did that, because during the 1 month program that I did from the British Council in Delhi, there are these moments of epiphany where you're going to do this for the rest of your life. So during that 1 month, yes, during that 1 month, there was a particular lesson I was sitting in, and I just knew that this was it for me. And I think I worked extra hard for it because it was so do or die for me that I had to make this work. I had nothing else to fall back on. So I really gave it all my all, and I never lost hope. And I just kept applying to so many jobs after that. I think it took me 6 months, but after that, I think for the last 10 years, there's been no looking back.
Okay. So it took you 6 months to get settled into a altogether new field.
To start a new field, yes. To study again, to find a job, to kind of talk to everybody involved, have stakes in my life and my career, to have them get on board. I mean, they only ever got on board properly 3 years into my career when there were a lot of good things going on. But yes, 6 months of doing all of that before I could. And at that point, it felt like an eternity. But now that I look back, it was a very smooth shift. I think I'm very grateful for the lucky breaks I got to.
And this is like how many years back?
2010.
Somewhere around
10
to 12 years now you are into your new field.
Yes.
So any regrets looking back?
For the most part, no regrets. I feel like everything in your life leads you to your next, leads you where you belong. I've held that belief for as long as I remember. I don't like regretting things. But lately, I just wonder how things would have turned out if I had done humanities. Because I'm also very interested in history now. I'm interested in linguistics and the power they have over our life and our minds. Psycholinguistics is one of my areas of interest. So I just wonder if I had done that properly, where would I have been today? But that's about it. I mean, no regrets, but yes, it's a journey. I don't expect the 16-year-old me to know exactly what she wanted for the rest of her life. I think that's an unrealistic expectation to place on a teenager.
Not anyone, even, yeah.
Yes, and I think I am so glad that I managed to change my mind. I think one thing we resist is people changing their mind. And I don't think that's good, because as you grow, you should change your mind.
Yeah.
If you don't, you're literally being stagnant. You're literally being stuck in a place where you probably don't have to be anymore. So
keeps giving you new perspectives.
Best thing to do is to evolve, I think, and tell people it's okay to change their mind. I know somebody who changed their career consulting to producing music, and they're doing so well for themselves right now. So we're lucky to live in a day and age where that's possible, and why not encourage it?
I think till the end of one's life, one should keep trying and being positively ambitious and trying new things and finding your passion and till it clicks. Yeah. And I think every goal should also be associated with some kind of service, some kind of giving back to the universe, some way. So if the intentions are good and aligned with the universe, things work out on their own. So,
absolutely.
Okay. And are parents now completely accepting of?
I think parents, they're very happy right now. I might even dare say that they're proud. And they sometimes, when people want to know what to do with their careers in the future, they'll have them talk to me. I think that's the biggest compliment. Yeah,
definitely. That is since long I was, thinking of that Tapsi has chosen very boldly, very courageously her passion, and then you've pursued and you've done a wonderful job. So I really wanted you to come to this portal and actually guide people. Every such, when we listen to stories of people who have done it their own way, it does motivate them down the line and gives courage to give it a try.
And it shows them that there's a path.
There's a path, and it's worth taking chances.
Yes.
Because unless and until you take a chance, how will you get to know whether you could be successful or not? And it's okay even if once in a while you fail. I think it's perfectly okay. Failing in life is a part of life. Failing many times is also should be normal, should be a very normal part of life.
And encouraging people to fail fast, in the sense that fail sooner in life. Let the 14-year-olds go and observe different careers. Let them fail in the subjects that they're not interested in. Have failure around that age, so that as you grow old, you're on a more sure-footed path to what you're going to do.
Yeah, very right. Okay. What do you think, Tapsi, after so many years, like if I ask you, How important are the marks, the result? What is your take on that?
There's a teacher, or there was my English teacher from that time, Mr. Anil Kumar. I'm sure you know him.
Okay.
He said something that has stayed with me for a long time, and he told us for the first time ever that you are not your mark.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I
And
know.
I have a, yeah, you know that, right?
I know Anil sir also, a brilliant person and very strong in his subject.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's what I was told, and I think I've stuck to that for a very long time. I'm also very fortunate to have a father who never associated our value with marks. He was also always telling us that, it's about how much you understand a subject and more than, how many marks you get. Focus on the understanding, and marks are like a byproduct of how much you know that. And I feel like, at least back then, a lot of my marks were not an indication of my understanding or interest in the subject. They were an indication of how good a memory I had. And I have a very good memory. So if that's what you're looking for, marks really matter. But if not, I don't think anybody's future depends on any marks they get in any exam.
All I keep telling my class now also that marks, yes, they are important right now. While you're in
Yes.
11th, 12th, yes, you're going to get your
Yes,
seat
it is.
on the basis of marks, and you cannot change that fact. You cannot change
That is
fact.
structure.
To get that place where you want to build up your careers, to enter at the entry level, you do need marks. But
Yes.
if you're not able to manage, it's not end of the game, because
It's
these
not.
marks are needed only till here. After
Yes.
that, it's your personality that's going to, make you play the remaining part of the game of life. So it's just these 2 years. So we cannot take away as such marks from life, especially the entry level points, because there has to be some
Yes.
way by, grade or classify people. Otherwise, it won't be possible how to pick people for certain fields and certain streams. But yes, I was telling my class the other day that it's not essential. People who are not good scorers right now are not going to do anything later. Maybe the ones right now who are not doing anything employ the ones who are very good 2 years later. You never know.
That is so spot on.
Thing is written for sure, but during those 2 years, yes.
Yes, and let the marks, sorry to interrupt you, but let the marks be a byproduct of your understanding.
Sometimes the kind of system we have in India, 11th and 12th, I won't name any one, but the kind of culture, so many academies teach people, don't have a very strong knowledge base, but they teach people on the basis of elimination method. Aisa question aa jaye to ye karna hai, and they sometimes create good scorers, even though the subject knowledge may not be that strong.
Yes.
So everything is happening. So marks are important at that time, but yes, in the long run.
For entrance, absolutely.
In the long run, it's how you manage your life and how you manage your careers and what price you are ready to pay. Price not in terms of money, in terms of coming out of your comfort zone and trying things and taking chances. All that builds up life.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. To the students who have this dilemma of choosing a career. Tapsi, today's generation, I think, is far smarter, more exposed, because they have more access to so many things than where you were in 2006.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So the good and bad both. These days, children are exposed to the good and bad both. So any specific message that you would like to give to students, how to actually identify their passion and how to be confident, yes, this is it. This is what I want to do. Any such kind of standard suggest children should be following? Choose a career or to decide, or when should they be taking a risk? Because risks also should not be blind risk. They should be, to some extent, they should be calculated and assessed before you put your foot into a particular path. So what is your take on it, and what is your suggestion?
So I would just say the most sure-footed way of doing this is getting to know yourself as much as you can. Think about the things that you can do for hours without realizing how time flew by. Think of the things that you're a natural at. If you're looking for a long-term career, that is your best bet, because doing things day in and day out for about 2.5 decades is only going to be successful if you're honest to yourself about what you really enjoy and what you're good at. Then back that up with hard work. Cannot just be your interest. If I'm being honest, I had to work twice as hard as my colleagues and my peers at the British Council, because I did not have a bachelor's or a master's in English literature. So I had to really back that up with a lot of work to be at par with everybody over there, and it worked. I think there was a risk. There's knowing yourself. There's taking a risk, and then you have to back it up with work. You have to put in the work. There's no other way. Especially in the first 5 years of your career, if you can be diligent and you can really back up your talent and your education with hard work, it will more often than not work out. And if not, give yourself the compassion to change your mind. and look for something that does work. I think that's what I would
Very true. Very rightly so.
Yeah.
Because it's basically, I think success comes from persistently doing something. If you're
Yes.
practicing something for years together, and if you're also enjoying what you're doing, success has to come.
Deadly combination.
It has to come. So I think this is where children lose. Today's generation need instant gratification.
Yes.
2 दिन पढ़े थे, marks नहीं है. And they define things that way. So yes.
That is so true, because I don't think many of us, because of the instant nature of our world right now, in Delhi, there's a food delivery service that gets you anything you want, like groceries in like 10 minutes of ordering by the clock. So just because of the instant nature of the world we live in, I think the value of persistent efforts over time is really underestimated, if you will. And absolutely, there's some ballpark number that I read in a book that says you have to be doing things or practicing a skill for almost 10,000 hours or more to be an expert on this. So for example, if Bill Gates, they took the example of Bill Gates, they took the example of Beatles, people who've made history.
That the painter, Hussain.
Michelangelo? M.F. Hussain.
M.F. Hussain. He also
so
these just one stroke for so many hours, and then you master it.
Yes, and most careers come with a skill. So I think these people like Bill Gates had access to computers and coding at a very young age because of the privilege he had. So he's where he is right now. He could, build a company around that. Similarly, Beatles, they had the opportunity to practice and singing in local clubs very early on in their careers. They added those hours of practice of that skill, which 20 years later made history. It didn't happen in a fortnight or overnight, if you will. So that is really, really well said.
Nobody can see those 20 years.
Yes.
So
nobody can see the number of times they failed.
Yes. The number of frustrations in the process and how one builds up from where we can just see the final product. That is what needs to be understood.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was great. This was great. I think, Tapsi, this will definitely help many of them to decide with an open mind what they wish to. And I think even parents will get insights from this conversation, how to help children choose, and just let children at least put forward their own heart goal into what they desire, what is their kind of life they visualize. And if they do not give them enough time, be a little patient with them. Some are early beginners, some are late beginners, some identify this quite late, some mature late. So I think as parents and teachers, we all should be a little patient with children, helping, motivating them to grow as better as they can, but being kind of giving them these options.
Yeah, I discovered my thing at 22. That's late by many, many standards.
Just the beginning.
But according to the system, I'm supposed to know at 16 and never change after that. Yeah. But also what you said so rightly about the parents. So if the system is not allowing to have real life exposure to real careers, parents can do that for their kids. They can organize internships with their friends, with their family members who are different professions. Parents can actually close the gap right now that we have in this system.
Definitely. It'll really help.
Thank you for allowing me to share my journey.
My pleasure, Bhatia. It was so great having you, Tapsi, after so many years. And this was one reason we interacted. So stay in touch.
I will. It was lovely to see you yesterday.
Anything new you learn, share it with me.
Absolutely.
And we can
share
it with the world also.
We'll do that. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. So I hope it helps a lot many students. So children, if you like, please share, subscribe, and you can even comment below if you would like to see more such content. Thank you. Have a great day.